If your entire portfolio is invested in different US stocks, you might think you are diversified. But you're not. You're completely exposed to one country's economy, political decisions, and military risks. And with everything happening in the world right now, that's dangerous. Today we are going to discover the best international ETFs that can give you real geographical diversification and help you build long-term wealth. We're going to look at the top performers in different categories. The ones with best returns, the lowest fees, the highest dividends, and the best overall combination of all these factors. But before we dive into this ranking, let me quickly mention our sponsor for today's video, Seeking Alpha, which makes finding great investments incredibly simple. So let's head over to the Seeking Alpha website and open their ETF screener, and then select Top International Equity ETFs. Just with 2 clicks, we are left with 199 of the best international ETFs. That's still a lot to analyze, so now we need to choose the right metrics to find the absolute best options. First, let's add the expense ratio. We want to make sure we're choosing ETFs that don't charge us too much in fees. Next, let's go to performance and add both 5-year and 10-year total returns. And finally, let's look at dividends. I'll add the 4-year average yield. And I'll also add 5-year dividend growth, which helps us find ETFs generating income that's actually growing faster than inflation. Okay, now let's filter the list. First, I only want to see ETFs that charge 0.2% or less in fees. Next, let's remove the ETFs that lost money over the last 5 or 10 years. And now we are left with just 27 ETFs, much more manageable. Let's start with the ETFs that charge the lowest fees. Remember, even small differences in fees can cost us tens of thousands of dollars over decades. Here are the top 5. Number 5, Vanguard Total International Stock Index Fund ETF shares at 0.05%. Number 4, Vanguard FTSE All World Except US Index, that is at 0.04%. Then at number 3, Vanguard FTSE Developed Markets Index, 0.03%. Number 2, Spider Portfolio Developed World Except US ETF, also at 0.03. And at number 1, the Schwab International Equity ETF, and again, just 0.03%. These are incredibly low fees. For comparison, many actively managed international funds charge over 1%, which would be 20 times more expensive than these options. Now for our winner, the Schwab International Equity ETF, let's head over to Seeking Alpha and look at what this ETF actually holds. And it is really well diversified, with top 3 industries being technology, industrials, and financials. And the top holdings are ASML, Samsung, and SAP. And if we go to ratings, we can see that it has absolutely great grades. Everything is between B+ and A+. That is very nice to see. Next, let's look at which ETFs have delivered the best returns over the last 5 years. This shows us performance through recent market conditions. Here are the top 5. Vanguard Total World Stock Index Fund at 85.83%. FTSE International Equity Currency Neutral ETF, 85.89%. At number 3, iShares MSCI ACWI Low Carbon Target ETF, 86.7%. Then Spider Portfolio MSCI Global Stock Market ETF, 89.97%, and at number 1, the iShares Global Equity Factor ETF with an incredible 90.86% return. Let's go to Seeking Alpha and examine its holdings to understand what makes it perform so well. So the top 3 industries are consumer cyclical, financial, and technology. And if we look at the top 10 companies in this ETF, they are almost all technology companies, with Apple, Microsoft, and Nvidia leading the way. So it has great returns, but it has a substantial portion of its assets in the US. So we have to remember about that when thinking about diversification. And let's also see the grades. It is all A's except liquidity. But if the risk grade is A+, then we should be okay. Now let's look at the long-term champions, the ETFs with the best 10-year track records. This is really important because it shows consistency through multiple market cycles. Here are the top 5. iShares Global Equity Factor ETF at 175.91%. Spider MSCI ACWI Climate Paris Alignment ETF, 185.52%. Vanguard Total World Stock Index Fund ETF at 190.61%. Then we have iShares MSCI ACWI Low Carbon Target ETF, 194.37%, and at number 1, Spider Portfolio MSCI Global Stock Market ETF, an amazing 195.02% return. These numbers are absolutely incredible. This ETF nearly tripled your money over 10 years. Let's check Seeking Alpha to see what it holds inside. It's industrials, financials, and technology again. And just as with iShares Global Equity Factor ETF, main positions are in technology and the same 3 companies are leading the way. But in this case, the ETF grades are similar in all categories, from B- when it comes to dividends to A+ when it comes to risk. Nice, but we are only partially escaping the US influence on our portfolio with this ETF. For those of you who want passive income, let's look at which ETF pays the best dividend. Remember, we are looking at the 4-year average, not just the current yield. Here are the top 5. iShares Core MSCI EAFE ETF at 3.19%. Vanguard FTSE Emerging Markets Index Fund ETF at 3.22%. Vanguard FTSE Europe ETF at 3.26%. iShares Call MSCI Pacific ETF 3.34%, and at number 1 we have iShares International Equity Factor ETF with 3.78% yield. Let's go to Seeking Alpha to see its holdings. So in this case, technology is only the 4th industry. The top 3 are consumer cyclical, industrials, and financials. Also, the companies are different. We got Nestle, ASML, and Novartis. And what about its grades? It looks very nice. All the grades are from B to A. Great! Finally, let's look at ETFs where the dividend is actually growing over time. This is crucial for protecting your income against inflation. Here are the top 5. Spider Portfolio Europe ETF at 12.39%, Vanguard FTSE Europe ETF at 13.67%, iShares Core MSCI Europe ETF 14.85%. At number 2, FTSE International Equity Currency Neutral ETF at 16.09%, and the best ETF when it comes to dividend growth is Global X DAX Germany ETF with 17.98% growth. That means your income is growing much faster than inflation, which is exactly what we want as long-term investors. And when we go to Seeking Alpha, we can see that Global X DAX Germany ETF is composed mainly of technology, financials, and industrials, which make up 32.5%. That is a lot. But the lack of diversification does not end here. Let's look at the companies. Allianz makes up 8% of this ETF, Siemens almost 11%, and SAP makes up 13.5%. That is a very concentrated ETF. So let's look at the grades, and we got 2 C's with liquidity and dividends. So let's take a closer look at the dividend score. And we can see that even though the 5-year growth is great, there are a number of other problems here. In the last 3 years, the dividend actually went down by 10%. That is a red flag. That is why having access to such a tool like Seeking Alpha is super useful and can save you a lot of money. Now here is where it gets really interesting. We are going to find the best overall international ETFs by combining all these rankings. At number 5, iShares Core MSCI EAFE ETF with 87 points. Number 4, Spider Portfolio Developed World Except US ETF with 90 points. Number 3, FTSE International Equity Currency Neutral ETF, 91 points. Then Vanguard FTSE Developed Markets Index Fund ETF with 98 points. And the best overall international ETF in our ranking is Vanguard FTSE Europe ETF with 105 points. So this ETF is our overall winner. It's the most well-rounded international ETF in our analysis. So let's take a closer look at it. When it comes to holdings, we can see that the top industries are healthcare, industrials, and financials, and it's very well diversified. 9 out of the top 10 companies are below 2% of the ETF. Only ASML is at 2.7%, and there are no US companies here. When it comes to ratings, as expected, it's a great ETF overall. All the scores are between B and A+. So there you have it, the top 10 international ETFs for building long-term wealth and achieving true geographical diversification. Remember, you don't need to own all of these. Even adding just 1 or 2 international ETFs to your portfolio can significantly reduce your exposure to US-specific risks. If you want to dive deeper into any of these ETFs, head over to Seeking Alpha. And if you use the link in the description before December 9th, you'll get 20% off your subscription plus a 7-day free trial, so you have nothing to lose. And thank you Seeking Alpha for sponsoring this video and making this research possible. If you found this helpful, make sure to check out my video where I find the best REITs, real estate investment trusts, on the market. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.